What's up everyone, I'm Twisted. 2025 is right around the corner and so are the new thematic seasons. Next year will be divided into 3 seasons and each season will have 2 acts. A season will bring its own unique theme and narrative, which will be the anchor for some of the content coming in that season. This includes new champions, gameplay changes and the topic of today's video, skins. The first season is themed around Noxus. NPB just got the first batch of skins that will come alongside the season. And I say first batch as it's likely that the second act will bring more. Without further ado, let's dive into the Silken Dance. Revelry and luxury reign at the Silken Dance, a masquerade uniting nobles and luminaires from across Runeterra. But in Noxus, the ballroom is a battlefield. A whisper is as sharp as a dagger, and power is traded between pleasantries. Even the reclusive Lady Elise has left her nest to host the event, in service to unseen eyes, watching, waiting. The story of the Masque of the Black Rose skins is about a dance taking place in the manor of House Kythera, which is being hosted by Elise, who's the head of that house. The bio of Elise's skin is a letter sent to her, likely by LeBlanc. A quick refresher, LeBlanc is the leader of the Black Rose, which is a secret cabal manipulating whatever and whoever they can from the shadows. The group and LeBlanc predate Noxus itself, and it was them who managed to defeat Mordekaiser. Now they simply bide their time, finding ways to stay in power and preparing to face him once he returns. And right now you're probably wondering if this skin line is canon. I'll elaborate on that at the end of the video, but for now, yes, I do believe the skin line takes place in the canon world of Runeterra. We don't really know what the goal of this dance is. That might get revealed later, either in the upcoming cinematic or in Act 2. So for now, let's move over to the guests whose bios are the invitations sent by Elise. Starting with Vladimir. Vladimir is a member of the Cabal, though he has his own personal agenda and there are hints he might wanna break ties with the Rose at some point. So perhaps this invitation was a way to keep him on their side for a little longer. Something interesting to mention here is how this Vladimir is using the same design we see in Wild Rift. That's his most up-to-date design, in other words, the one that's canon. So it's cool seeing them using it for a canon skin. I do hope they give him the Udyr treatment and turn his old design into one of his many phases, as we know from the lore that Vladimir likes to reinvent himself every couple years. Moving on to Samira. From Samira's Scholar story, we learn that the person that gives her missions, Captain Inderi, is working for LeBlanc, which explains why Inderi is mentioned here in her skin bio. And Samira is also mentioned in one of LeBlanc's interactions in Legends of Runeterra. The Black Rose sees Samira as an important asset, so it makes sense why she was invited. There might also be a more specific reason, but I'll get to that in a second. Now, Ezreal is an interesting one. He might seem totally out of place here at first, but hear me out. When Ezreal was updated, the interactive map got a bunch of notes written by him. In Noxus, we learned that some shady people started following him and even gave him a black petal. Then, every single day after, he found more black petals. But why would the Rose be interested in Ezreal? Because of his knowledge? Maybe because of the powerful gauntlet? Or maybe because he managed to stop a plot to revive Mordekaiser? Yes, in one of his stories, there was a guy, part of a cult, that wanted to use an elixir to revive Mordekaiser. But Ezreal managed to run away with it. Considering the Rose's history with the Iron Revenant, it makes sense why Ezreal would be on their radar after that stunt. Something cool here is how Elise calls him Gerald Lightfeather. This is the aliases he uses in the Masque while pretending to be a Sentinel of Light. But at the end of the letter, Elise reveals that they know his real name. The only guest left is Renata Glasc, probably the most out-of-place champion in this skinline. The letter simply says that they recognize her blossoming influence in Piltover and Zone and want to forge a bond with her. Honestly, despite being out of place, this is still pretty cool, and I hope this allegiance between Renata and the Black Rose has some kind of payoff in the future. But some of you might be wondering if Renata even exists after Arcane. The answer is yes, kinda. At some point, Riot is going to update her lore to be cohesive with the show, but we have no idea when that will happen or what will change. Whatever the case may be, it's more than likely that her current story, or something similar, is taking place after the events of the show. In the description of the skin line and in Renata's skin bio, we learn that Swain's rise to power happened recently, and I speculate that season 2 of Arcane takes place after Swain made a deal with the demon, but before the coup. In other words, before he established the Triferix. So, Renata being in the Silken Danse can work, but again that's going to depend on what Riot does to her lore after Arcane, and how much of the Noxus lore we know is staying the same, considering that the show based on the region is being worked on. And the only champion missing is Katarina. Her bio is a letter giving her a target for her to assassinate at the Silken Danse. We don't know who her target is, though I have some suspicions as you'll see, but this letter is more than likely coming from Swain, which means this should take place after the Katarina comic, assuming they are not retconning it because of the show. Finally, I want to take a look at Ezreal's splash art. In it, we see him likely leaving the dance, throwing away his mask, but behind him are people panicking and running away. Why? Well, if we look at the shadows in the background, we can see this person, who is likely Elise. She's even in the same pose as in her splash art, and above her we can see Samira. But I don't think Samira is trying to kill Elise, no. I think Samira is protecting her from Katarina. Yes, it's very likely that Katarina's target is Elise. It makes sense, Elise is quite a notable figure, both in the Black Rose but also amongst the noble houses of Noxus. Why does Swain want her out of the picture at this specific moment? We don't really know, but it might have something to do with why the Black Rose is organizing this dance in the first place, which we also don't know. Either way, Samira was likely invited to deal with Katarina or with any assassination attempt in general. As I mentioned at the start, you're probably wondering if these skins are canon, especially with the inclusion of some champions. For now, I believe they are canon as anything that's in the game can be. I'm going to argue semantics here, but nothing in the game is really canon. What we see in the game is an interpretation based on the lore. Champions and skins are meant to sell you a fantasy first and be lore accurate second. This is why champions can have joke emotes and talk to themselves over and over and have gameplay restrictions that are far from lore accurate. But this idea also extends to splash arts that might contradict stories, visual effects that give champions new powers, or even champions having different weapons or different forms. But this isn't to say that we should disregard everything we see in the game. As I said, what we see is still based on the lore, it might just not be 100% accurate. So, did Ezreal really get invited to the Silken Danse? Probably yes. Did he get a new gauntlet? Probably not. And here's one final note with some predictions for Act 2. Data mining has revealed that Mordekaiser is getting a new skin and that LeBlanc might be getting an update or a big skin, like an exalted one. There have also been some leaks about Mel being the Noxian champion joining the roster this season. So, with this information, here are my predictions / wishlist. The Mordekaiser skin being based on how he looked before being defeated the first or second time, a LeBlanc rework because I do not want more scam skins and she really needs an update, Mel joining the roster, and since the first skins were themed after the Black Rose, I hope the next ones are themed after the Triferix. The new Noxian map itself has a Black Rose side and a Triferix side, so introducing Triferix skins or skins based on the Noxian military would make a lot of sense. This could be for Swain or Darius, though I'm not sure how that could work. Like the Mordekaiser one, it would also be cool if these skins were based on past looks, like Riven when she was a captain or Cyan when he was alive. The new map has a couple references to specific champions, but only 1 or 2 are getting a skin for now, so I hope this changes in Act 2. And speaking of the new map, my next video should be about all the details I found on it. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss it. It's free and you can always change your mind later. With this being said, I'll see you guys in the next one.